Bore da, gobeithio bod pawb yn iawn. O'n i'n meddwl falle byddwn ni'n gwneud fideo bach i torri pethau lan, achos fi'n gwybod chi wedi bod yn gweithio ar lot o theori dros yr wythnosau diwetha. Good morning. I decided to make a little video because I know you've been working from a lot of theory and paperwork over the last few weeks. Okay, I'm going to do this demo in English to save myself repeating over and over and making it a very long video. We're going to be looking at cutting screw threads today. So effectively cutting an internal thread, like we'd see on the inside of a nut, and then cutting an external thread, like we'd see on the outside of a bolt. And if they go together, they should spin freely and work just like a bolt, nut and bolt. Okay, so we're going to start with the first two tools. We're going to be looking at taps. Now taps usually come in a set of 3, and if you look at your notes from page 102, that shows you some detail about the taps, and the taps come in a set of 3, as I mentioned: a taper tap, a second tap and a plug tap. We always start with a taper tap, and the taper tap, quite difficult to show in the video, but it starts, if I come closer, the taper tap starts from no thread at all and gradually works up to a full thread. That's shown clearer in your notes from page 102 there, as I mentioned. And the other tool we're going to look at, the tap, fits into a tap wrench. And that's how we're going to be turning the tap to cut the thread in the work. And the other tool is a die. And a die cuts, if I go closer again for now, the die cuts a thread on the outside of a metal rod to make effectively a bolt. Okay, and the die fits into a die stock like that, and the die stock then is used to cut the thread, and I'll show you that in a minute. So we're going to start with a piece of metal, and I'm going to center punch a mark to drill my hole for the thread. There, now then. Very difficult to see that with this camera. I've center punched a mark there, and now we're going to go to the drill press to drill a hole through the metal. Before we cut the hole, we need to know what size drill. Now the thread I'm cutting will be an M8 thread, and the M8 stands for the diameter of the bolt. Okay, so it's going to be an 8mm diameter thread. So we need to check our tapping drill chart. There's a copy of this in your portfolio, and also I tend to use in the workshop, I tend to use my little black book, and that has a tapping drill chart there as well. So if I look for M8 and then come across to the tapping drill, it'll tell me that I need a 6.8 drill to drill through in order to cut my thread. Okay, I'm going to start drilling with this. This is a center drill. It's a, put the camera there. The center drill starts our drilling accurately in the right place on the center punch mark. So if I lock that in the drill, position my work accurately on the center punch, turn the drill on, now the center drill won't drill all the way through the material, it'll only make a mark and go part way through. When you're back in the workshop, we'll go over this in more detail again, and obviously using the drill safely. Needless to say, I'm already wearing my safety glasses. Now, before I drill the 6.8 drill, I'm going to add a little bit of cutting lubricant. Okay, now this helps the drill cut, and it makes the drill bits last longer and stay sharper for longer, and it will give us a more accurate hole as well. So a little drop of cutting lubricant. Now I'm going to start the drill again. And there we are. Okay, here I am back at the bench, having drilled all the way through. So we're going to use the tap, and I'm using the taper tap as I mentioned. We always start with a taper tap to gradually start the thread in the hole. So the hole was 6.8 for an M8 tap. First things first, we need to make sure that the tap is located squarely in the hole. And I'll do that by putting my square on the workpiece. Yeah, you can see that there, good. So the square is on the workpiece, and I will sight to make sure that this tap aligns with my square, which it is. And I look from the side as well, check that that's square there, yes. Okay, I'll move the tap out of the way. And sorry, let me get my tapping lubricant. So same again, just a little drop of tapping lubricant on the hole. I'm going to start cutting the thread. The tap is biting there, actually cutting. I can see down into the flukes, and I can see a little bit of metal being cut. So I'll continue to go forward and then back. Forward and back. Forward and back. Okay, so when I turn back, I'm cutting that little bit of metal that's been cut off there. If I just go forward, it'll clog up in the tap and eventually break the tap. So it's really important that I go forward and back. Forward and back. There we are, I'm all the way through, cutting a nice free running thread. I'll take that out. There we are. That's the tap out of the hole, and if I look inside, I've got a perfectly cut thread in there. Okay, so the really important things to remember are what we call this a tap, and this is a taper tap, fits in a tap wrench, and when we go to cut the thread, we need to make sure that the tap is square to the surface of the material we're cutting. Okay, we're going to have a look at cutting external threads next. Okay, I'm going to cut a corresponding 8mm thread on the outside of this 8mm bar to fit into the 8mm internal thread that I've just cut using the tap. So as I mentioned, we're starting off with an 8mm diameter mild steel bar. Put that in the vise. And I've actually filed a little bit of a chamfer like this all the way around to help the die start off cutting the thread. Okay, so it's very important that we put a little bit of cutting oil on the metal. So this helps keep the die sharper for longer, makes it last longer, but also gives us a better finish when we cut the thread as well. Really important and slightly tricky with starting a die is that we have to make sure that it's nice and square to the work. So I've just press down and give it a twist there to make sure it bites and starts cutting. But I'm going to just check that my die stock is square to the material from both sides, and it's pretty good. So I'm going to start cutting by turning the die stock clockwise, and once it starts biting I'm going to go back, just like I did with the tap. Okay, forwards and back, forward and back. I tend to go half a turn forward and then quarter of a turn back. And then try and take that off. With a little wipe to make sure that I take all the oil off. And also some of the swarf. Swarf is the term we use to call the little bits of metal that come off when you cut. And that's given me a nice external M8 thread, which should screw straight in to the tapped hole. There we are, perfect. Okay, so that is cutting screw threads, internal and external, using these two tools, a tap in a tap wrench and a die in a die stock. Okay, thank you. Just a quick recap on the die and some terminology as well. The die itself is called a button die. And the button die is a small cylindrical tool with threads cut on the inside. Okay. You'll notice that the die stock has 3 screws, and these 3 screws are used to adjust the button die. There's a small slot in the top there that allows it to be squeezed in and out ever so slightly to change the size of the thread. Now we usually do that with big diameter threads. Okay, if we're making larger threads than M8, say M20 or M25 where they're quite big, we might need to cut in 2 goes. We'd cut a thread first and then we'd tighten up the die to reduce it ever so slightly and then cut it again to get the accurate size thread we want. Okay. And that might be information that you find handy to answer some questions on page 106.